Hello everybody, this is Isa, and this is Game 2 in the Best of 5 series between SoulWind and Marcoasd. I'm gonna spoil the results of the first game played in the series. SoulWind won in a somewhat RNG-dominated battle. And we're gonna see same lead from Marcoasd, looks like same team in fact. He uses a Gengar lead, whereas SoulWind has switched up at least his lead position and is using a lead Starmie. Gengar has some issues with this. Psychic is obviously gonna deal a lot. Thunderbolt deals a lot back. Hypnosis is an option, but most likely Gengar will switch out. I do not see it as a reasonable possibility that Gengar stays in. Yep, Chansey comes in, takes a Hydro Pump. That's interesting on especially a lead Starmie. I did not expect that. Okay, Chansey comes in, Ice Beam connects, and oh good. Freeze War from point 1. No, here comes the Gengar. Okay, that's good. Ice Beam connects, 20%. Will Hypnosis connect? Yes, it does. Okay, so Marco is in a slightly favored position until SoulWind can re-sleep. Okay. Alakazam versus Lapras. I predict that Lapras will switch out here. Taking unnecessary Thun Waves does not help the cause. Okay, Psychic does not crit, but it gets a Specs drop. Chansey still gets the opportunity to heal up here. Okay, and it's a non-lead Gengar, and SoulWind is using a quite unusual team as he has 3 recovery users and Gengar. So he's not using either. He's skipping out on Exeggutor, Snorlax, or Tauros. One of those 3, maybe more. Oh wow, and here comes the counter RNG revenge from last game. Seismic Toss connects twice on Marcoasd's Gengar, but Thunderbolt is used and it gets paralysis. And Gengar is a Pokemon that really runs on speed. His typing is sweet, but he must use it along with his speed in order to remain effective. Now Gengar is very frail. It is still not at the percentage where a non-stab Earthquake would be a guaranteed KO. Same with stab Psychic. So it still has some cream left in it. Okay, Marco decides to go to Exeggutor, threatening Gengar with not with Hypnosis, but with Psychic. On that note, I find it very curious that SoulWind decided not to go for Hypnosis, as this could very well be his sole sleeper. And yeah, he's forced to switch out here into Chansey. If Gengar cannot find a way to come back in safely on a target that it can at least survive 1 or preferably 2 hits from. Oh, and we see an Articuno. This is a very curious team from SoulWind. This is absolutely non-standard to first and foremost to even use Articuno, but then to use it on along with the other mons is very creative. Okay, so not to get too far off track. Gengar is in, finds opportunities to use Hypnosis, but still doesn't go for it. I disagree with this. I think that sleep is way too important to pass up upon. And oh wow, Psychic gets Psychic connects with a Gengar. Seismic Toss connects as well. Gengar barely survives, but wow, yeah, Gengar really wanted to blow up there or sleep or anything but Seismic Toss. Psychic connects with Articuno's Specs drop. It's relevant. It's gonna limit the damage that either Lapras or Chansey takes if it decides to switch in. SoulWind goes for a double switch Tauros into Lapras, but this isn't very good. Lapras uses Blizzard. Tauros has to switch out. Chansey comes in. SoulWind has lost all momentum. He has a lot of chip damage on his team. His only Pokemon with Explosion is about to go down. He has no status on the opposite team. I don't see a lot of great things happening in the near future for SoulWind. Okay, Psychic versus Shanxi. Its crit still only does 36%. Only does 36%. Ice Beam does not freeze. I wonder when SoulWind is gonna start going for actual attacking moves. It could be that he's just going to use freeze moves and hope for that, but that's not a reliable strategy, and I think that SoulWind is good enough to actually win without having to rely upon those strategies. Another critical hit from Alakazam, no specs drop, so Soft Boiled negates the damage dealt. Here comes another Psychic, and this time it's a specs drop. Ice Beam does not freeze. Alakazam recover, Chansey Thunderwave. I think that's a good turn for Marcoasd. He does not need to rely upon freezing his opponent. Paralysis is most likely going to help him out more. Well, not more, but more reliably. Okay, and now SoulWind reveals that he is Seismic Toss. I think that Reflect is usually better on Alakazams that aren't in the lead position. But it is what it is. Okay, Thunderbolt times 2 deals about as much damage as Psychic does with one Specs drop. And here we go again with another Specs drop. It's obvious that Marco is just stalling here to draw Psychic PP. Oh, and here comes the first status of the of the game on the Marcoasd side, and it's Paralysis on Chansey, which is almost something you want to happen given what SoulWind has on his team that's awake and threatening. Articuno and Chansey now cannot freeze Chansey, and those are very well. Obviously, every Pokemon is important, but I think that to this strategy, Articuno is quite central with its Ice-type moves. Unfortunately for SoulWind, not only does Marco have a paralyzed Chansey, but also a Lapras that's obviously not gonna get frozen due to its Ice typing. Articuno reveals Rest. That's, well, maybe good in the short run, but there's gonna be some issues down the road, I think. It seems to me that Marcoasd has a lack of electric type moves, maybe only a Thunderbolt on Chansey. And Chansey, Thunderbolt, when paralyzed, not very reliable source of damage, so Articuno might be able to get away with resting a few times. Oh, Gengar has Thunderbolt, of course. I forgot about that. Nevertheless, back into the battle, Alakazam is paralyzed, staring down at Snorlax, double switching back and forth. I think that Marcoasd is constantly improving his position turn by turn, even though there's a lot of minimal damage dealt due to constant healing through rest and softball. Most of these turns favor Marcoasd. Going for the Hyper Beam, very safe play, connects with the Gengar, but it's paralyzed, does not deal a lot of damage. Earthquake, good chain switching from SoulWind, but waking up on the following turn. Body Slam does not get a paralysis. And now we're down at Hyper Beam percentage. Articuno rests, but Snorlax gets a critical hit, and now Articuno will die to 2 more Body Slams with, unless they're minimum rolls. And we're not seeing that. Instead, we're seeing another critical hit Body Slam. So 6-5 situation, but I think that Marcoasd is in a position where he's just going to dominate the remainder of the game. Good prediction. Body Slam comes from SoulWind, but Gengar comes in. No damage dealt. Gengar can explode here if it wins the speed tie. Of course, there's still the paralyzed Gengar at 9% on SoulWind side, so he can predict that switch or just win the speed tie. Instead, we get a critical hit Thunderbolt. Man, Marcoasd is having a good time with these critical hits. Lapras comes in after Earthquake kills Gengar. Chansey is the response. Blizzard does not freeze just yet. Snorlax, Tauros, Tauros at 43% guaranteed the kill from Snorlax Hyper Beam. Oh! But we get to see a critical hit Hyper Beam from Tauros. And that was highly needed for SoulWind, but I don't know. Looking at what's remaining, I'm not sure if that's enough to turn it around. Despite being in the lead 5-4, I think that Marcoasd is at least even at this point. Okay, Lapras, Blizzard, still no freeze. Chansey can paralyze Lapras here. That would put a dent into Marcoasd's position. Okay, Blizzard again. Maybe trying to go for the freeze, maybe predicting a switch. Soft Boiled comes either way. Chansey still not frozen. How many Blizzards are remaining? Okay, we cannot see. But I think there's a few Blizzards remaining for Marcoasd still. Well, looking at what's left, Tauros obviously has the potential to break Chansey, but it comes at a cost. And if Lapras and Exeggutor are worn down sufficiently until that point happens, SoulWind's Tauros might be able to cleanly sweep after Chansey paralyzes the opposing Tauros. We'll see how it plays out. Okay, they're both switching. Alakazam comes in on Chansey, and Alakazam gets to recover off critical hit Ice Beam, putting you back where you started. Alakazam with 32 recover PP can obviously outstall 16 PP from Ice Beam, dealing 20% on average. So it's gonna be a stall battle between these two. Nobody's gonna kill the other. I think that SoulWind is favored if he had infinite PP on Psychic, but we know that he does not, and we can check how many PP he has remaining. 10 PP remaining on Psychic. That's sufficient to force out Chansey at least. And if he can predict the proper switch, then he can get paralysis off, or if it is a switch to Exeggutor, he can flat out KO it with Seismic Toss. And I suppose that's where the earlier Seismic Tosses from Gengar is starting to show its worth. 3 Seismic Tosses from Gengar connecting with Exeggutor is very good at this stage of the game, as Sleep is obviously not going to come at any point in time from SoulWind at this stage of the game, with his whole team revealed, and the only possibility for a Sleep at this point would be seeing Chansey, and I'm unsure if that's the plan. It's also interesting to note that SoulWind is only using 2 of the top 4 Pokemon in this game. He has Tauros and Chansey, but no Exeggutor, no Snorlax. That's a very interesting break from the norm. We'll see if it pays out. As it stands, I'm starting to shift my thoughts, and I'm now in the belief that SoulWind has a slight advantage because Marcoasd couldn't properly capitalize. Oh, and wow, I'm not sure if that's a great prediction or if it's just a bad play from Marco, but I'm gonna go with a bad play. Alakazam had used Seismic Toss on the previous turn. I think that the better play, if Marco wanted to get Exeggutor into play, was to chip away more at Alakazam and then try to switch in Exeggutor on a recover turn. Tauros comes in, Gengar tanks a Body Slam. Let's see if there's any chain switching. No, it's not. It's just a sacrifice. Okay, 4-3. Tauros 43% versus Tauros 100. Hyper Beam from Marcoasd could easily finish off Tauros here, and we'll see. Okay, so Stormy and Chansey can tank a Desperation Hyper Beam. I think Marco knew that and went for Body Slam. I think that Hyper Beam would have been better, but it works out decently. Marcoasd tanks a critical hit Body Slam. That's not a good thing ever, but he wins the battle at least without taking paralysis. That's also very important. And now Chansey on SoulWind side is not paralyzed. Chansey on Marcoasd side is paralyzed. Marco cannot be frozen. That's an obvious advantage, and I think it's gonna be properly, well, abused in proper time. As for now, Alakazam is staring down Chansey. He has a lot of Seismic Toss PP to go. Only 9 Psychics. Alakazam can one-hit KO Tauros at this percent with a decent roll. So it's not safe to switch out to Tauros here. Alakazam dies from Hyper Beam at roughly 80 to 90%. Critical hit body slams will obviously finish the job as well. But until a switch happens, this is just going to be a battle of soft-boiled and PP. Alakazam down to 45%. This could be an opportunity to switch in Tauros if... Yeah, now at 26%, this is a great opportunity to make a switch here. If he goes to Tauros here... Oh, he goes to Lapras instead. It works out, but that was a very lucky break for Marcoasd. 3 turns in a row where Alakazam is paralyzed, and Lapras can here kill with both Blizzard and Body Slam. And okay, Chansey comes in, tanks a Body Slam. Does it paralyze? No. That would probably have been helpful for SoulWind if the Body Slam would actually have paralyzed. Body Slam again. This is playing with fire. I think that going to Chansey here is would have been the much safer play, forcing Alakazam or Starmie to come in, and now Chansey comes in, but it's one turn too late in my opinion. However, SoulWind does not... Well, he doesn't capitalize on the switch. Now we have a Chansey battle, but Marcoasd is gonna win that. Ice Beam, Ice Beam. That's a bad play. Soft boiled at 64%, not any reason to do that. Ice Beam until you're at very low percent is much better play. There's no reason to heal up when you're at Tauros Hyper Beam percent if the opponent does not have a Hyper Beam remaining. Alakazam comes in and gets to recover, and the heavy advantage that Marcoasd had is now reduced into a fairly big advantage. Chances outside Hyper Beam range and outside Body Slam crit range as well, but it is at least a non-counter variant. So let's play a game of hypothetics. If Marco decides to sacrifice any Pokemon here, Chansey or Lapras, and bring in his Tauros, pretend that he gets a kill on Alakazam, what counterplay does SoulWind have? I see very little. Tauros has enough HP to tank an attack from both Starmie as well as Chansey. So Chansey is gonna have to get a freeze or a Body Slam, pardon me, or a Thunderwave Paralysis, and then some serious hacks in order to win it. So I think that despite allowing Alakazam to recover, while I've been talking, we've seen a lot of back and forth that ultimately resulted into nothing. Oh yeah, and here comes the predicted recover, but we're not sure if it's recover or not, but it's a paralyzed Alakazam. Tauros can clean up here. Body Slam, 32%, that's not a lot. 31%, even less, but Starmie does not wake up, and this should be game at this point. Yeah, now it's confirmed. Starmie does not wake up. Tauros can clean up the Starmie, and Marco doesn't need to risk the Tauros here. He can switch out into his own Chansey and just keep up with the Ice Beams, and yeah, that is exactly what he is going to do. The game is over. Well, realistically speaking, it's over. In theory, SoulWind still has a chance, but in practice, I don't see a way forward from this point. And yeah, if he's gonna stay paralyzed, he's not going to... Yeah, That's it. 2 straight paralyzes in a row. Alex at 7% HP. Thunderbolt finishes him off, and that's a unparalyzed Chansey versus a paralyzed Chansey. Even that is it's just game over at that point. But with Lapras and especially Tauros remaining, it's all but over. And SoulWind says that he will forfeit to avoid wasting time. So good game. I think that SoulWind had a very unorthodox team that didn't work out for him. I think he misplayed by not using Hypnosis with his Gengar. I think that if he wanted to not use Hypnosis, he should have at least have compensated by either spamming paralysis moves or spamming freezing moves, but to be honest, I didn't really see either of those, so I think that his strategy was flawed. Marcoasd played quite solidly. He made a few misplays that were, in the overall picture, maybe a bit more minor than I hyped them up to be. So overall, I think he played well. Same team as previous round. Well, I'm gonna end it here. That's a 1-1 in the best of 5 between Marcoasd and SoulWind. I hope you tune in for Game 3. See you later.